Hello, everybody. This is another episode of the interview from Community Heroes, and as always, we're always bringing interviews that impact and show advocacy for special needs population, and we're always trying to raise awareness. So today, as someone special to the forefront, advocate that had caught my attention as I was browsing for something interesting. Today's guest is Anessa Powell. I hope I didn't butcher your name.
Not too badly. It's actually Anessa, like Vanessa without the V, but you're good. I'll answer to Anissa, Alyssa. I've heard it all, but thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I always say that. I always get this close and mess up every time.
It's all
Uh,
right. Me too.
okay. So, Miss Powell, I'm just gonna kind of, jump into this and start answering my questions. So the first thing I think I want my viewers to know about you is just tell us a little bit about your hometown.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I am honored to be here today. I really am. And I love what you were trying to do to raise awareness for the disability community. And just a little bit about me. I grew up in Tennessee, in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is about 45 minutes north of Nashville. Born and raised there, lived there until I graduated from high school. And then I went to college at Auburn University, which is in Alabama. So straight from Tennessee to Alabama. And then I graduated from Auburn and went and I received a job with Marriott International, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. So here I am in my third Southern state at this point. And I met my husband in Atlanta, and we had our first daughter there. And then my husband got transferred with a company to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I am now. So now I'm my fourth Southern state, and we had a son. And so now we have two children, and we live in Charlotte. We lived here the first time, I will say, 8 years. And then we were transferred again with my husband's job up to Ohio. So that was my first time out of the South to live, but it was a great adventure for us. And we were in Ohio for 3 years. And then we moved back to Charlotte in 2017. And we love Charlotte. It is home to us. That's where we wanted to continue to raise our family. And so we've been here now for 4 years and absolutely love it.
Yeah, I have some family in-laws in Alabama, and I've only been to Charlotte once. Even though I've been in North Carolina all my life, but when I went to Charlotte, I enjoyed it. It is nice up there.
It's
Uh,
amazing and it's growing so fast. There's so many people trying to move here to the city. So it's becoming quite busy. Traffic is really picking up, but it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy it.
yeah. Um. So, um. Okay. So you kind of actually jumped into my second question. We
I
talked about
did.
your present hometown, but that's good. So, if you can you tell us a little about I think your diagnosis that I think I read on your website.
Yes, absolutely. So in 2013, I was diagnosed with Addison's disease, which is also known as primary adrenal insufficiency. And I will tell you, Tyron, leading up to that, I was quote unquote a healthy person. I guess you could say, but I had many years where I had some really weird symptoms leading up to my diagnosis. But I guess you could say, a healthy mom. And then after I had my second child, my son, in 2008, I started to develop some really odd symptoms. And it took a long time to finally get diagnosed. And when I was diagnosed, my life was forever changed. And what happened was eventually I had, in the end of 2012, I had sinus surgery because I had continual sinus infections and they just was not getting better. And we finally found out why. It's because with Addison's disease, your adrenal glands stop working. And leading up to that, they were starting to go out. And when your adrenal glands do not function properly, your body cannot fight off infection. And so that's why I wasn't getting better over my sinus infections. And so eventually I had the surgery, and it was pretty much what put me over the edge, was having that surgery. And then 10 days later, my body went into what is known as adrenal crisis. So I wound up in the hospital. My husband was traveling at the time, so my mom actually came into town because I thought I had a really bad flu. I was so sick with fever, nausea, it was just classic flu symptoms. And so they took me to the emergency room basically for dehydration. And the doctor looked at my mom and said, "We don't know how she's conscious right now because my sodium level was at a 106. And if you're familiar with sodium levels, they're supposed to be above 135. And when you're in that low, dangerous level, that's very serious. And that's why they thought that I should really have been in a coma. And so they admitted me for what they considered a flu-like symptoms. And I was in the hospital for a few days. And I started to get better. However, I knew at that point that I was starting to feel better, but we just still didn't know what was the cause of it. So 11 days later, I was eventually diagnosed after running through just, you name it, every test known to man. They eventually discovered that I had Addison's, which means that it's a rare disease. It's actually a rare autoimmune disease where your adrenal glands no longer function. And so in order for people with Addison's or primary adrenal insufficiency, in order for us to live, we have to take a steroid replacement. And if we don't take that medicine, then we get very, very sick and can be fatal. So we're very regimented with our medicine and making sure that we stay on top of it.
Yeah, man. And I think I remember the first time that I actually was introduced to that condition, which was actually in February. We did a rare disease webinar, and one of our we did a panel, and one of our panelists discussed that, having that and their experience with that and
Yes.
everything. So that's if just for our viewers, if we'll be putting that. I haven't put that webinar up yet because I wanted to save it, do some editing, but that'll be available soon too. Uh, so, man, just I imagine like just not know what was going on. Uh, so my next well you did so you kind of talked about the effects of the diagnosis. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to add on to the effects that you already gave us? Or, I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
Well, I will tell you, it's a very tricky disease because, and I like to tell people that when, like, say, for instance, if you are a diabetic, you're able to check your insulin levels at home and you can monitor it and you can adjust what you need to do based upon how those levels come back. However, for us, it's our cortisol levels, and that's what our adrenal glands produce or don't produce, actually, for us with Addison's. And we don't have an at-home monitor. So we have
Oh,
to constantly just be in tune with our bodies. And the
yeah,
thing is, when your body is stressed, your stress can come in many different forms. It can come in the form of physical stress, such as you get sick, you catch a cold, you get anything, that's physical stress. Or if you work out too hard, you exercise and it affects you that way. But emotional stress, most people don't consider that a stressor when they're thinking about how it affects your body sometimes, but it does, and it affects your cortisol levels. So for us, say, for instance, you have a loved one pass away suddenly and it's a shock to your system, that would require extra medicine on our part to compensate. And if we're not on top of our medicine intake, then we can get very sick and wind up in crisis, and then we have to, be hospitalized. So there are so many factors that we are constantly having to juggle to, and also the adrenal glands produce two different hormones, and so one of those being cortisol, but the other one is aldosterone, and that's our ability to retain fluids. So we don't retain fluids very well, so we have to take what I call my salt pill, because it helps me keep my salt and my fluids inside of my body. And so dehydration is a big factor for us. So if we have, like, the stomach bug is probably the worst possible thing that can happen to someone with Addison's, because you've got two different things happening here. You're immediately becoming dehydrated, and you're also dropping your cortisol levels. So for us, we have to go to the hospital immediately after we throw up more than twice, because we have to get all of that replenished, the
yeah,
medicine as well as the electrolytes. So it's I hate the fact that I worry about that. So, like, for instance, when I travel, Tyrone, I always look to see where the closest hospital is, because if I were to go out to eat, and this happens for anybody, and you could get food poisoning, I need to make sure that I am in radius of somewhere I'm getting to the hospital fairly quickly. So
and
that's a constant thing you think about.
yeah, and And that's a great point, listeners, and even myself now. Like you just said, when you're traveling, I'll be honest with you. The hospital is not really the first thing on my list. So I'm checking for. Cause I'm always checking for. I'm checking for the amusement parks. I'm checking for it. But you're right. A hospital. You should always be checking how far is it from my hotel or my place of stay. Is the nearest
Exactly.
emergency? You're right. That is a great point you brought up. Yeah. Okay, so I want to jump into my next question. My next question is, I know you've been active now. I saw you had your website where you're doing a lot of stuff with speaking and everything. But did you want to give a little bit about some of the uh, education uh, behind the background that you have, whether it be certification or just school and stuff, or experiences or whatever you wanted to mention?
Sure. So it's kind of funny. I never would have envisioned my life being where it is now. I have a degree in hotel and restaurant management, and I am not in the industry at all. I left when my daughter was born to be a stay-at-home mom, with the every intention of returning to work after my children were in school. But my health decided to take a sideways turn, and so my son was 4 when I was diagnosed. And at that point, I wanted to go back, but then I knew that, I was an event planner. And when you work in the industry and you plan events, it can be taxing on the body because you're on your feet all day. And I was working, oh goodness, 60, 70 hours a week towards the end there. And I knew that that was something that I couldn't do. And then when I was diagnosed, my life was forever changed because here I was, a quote unquote healthy person before, but now I have a diagnosis of a rare disease. And what does that mean for me? Does that mean, okay, I am going to be fine and I'm not going to ever have problems again as long as I take my medicine? Well, you quickly learn that that's not how it works. Your body is constantly changing and you have all this stuff happening and you've got to compensate for that, just being in tune. And so I was diagnosed in 13 and then we moved to Ohio in 14. And here I was in a place where I knew no one. And that's where I got into making sure I started to research about the disease and what that means. And also, as I began to research and learn, I also learned that there's so much out there that people don't know. And even the medical professionals don't understand adrenal insufficiency. It's one of those unknowns because it is a rare disease. But I will tell you that that landscape is changing because it is autoimmune. And as the autoimmune conditions in this country continue to increase at a rapid rate, more and more people are going to be diagnosed. And so that's what really spoke to me. And that's how I started this new, I like to call it an organic evolution of sorts of where I've gotten to today. As I began to research and I began to start speaking out on social media, I've learned so much, and I've had messages from around the world from people asking questions of, tell me about your diagnosis and do you have this symptom? Because I will tell you one thing about people with Addison's is we have really weird symptoms sometimes that doctors just do not understand. Like, we crave salt, we crave acidic things, which is really odd. We can get very tan because our pigmentation can change, just really some strange things. And so when we moved back to Charlotte in 17, I really made the commitment that I wanted to speak out about this and not only raise awareness for Addison's and rare diseases, but the whole disability community as a whole, because, and I know you understand this, Tyrone, is that when you have a disability, there's so many myths and stigmas that go along with that. And when you are a person with an invisible disability as myself, people 9 times out of 10 just don't understand because they haven't been affected by it. So that's why I wanted to raise awareness and highlight what it means to live with someone, to be someone who has an invisible illness, and to also share that people with invisible disabilities, they may look fine to you on the outside, but that doesn't mean that they are on the inside. And if you see someone who, and it can be anything ranging from MS to RA to lupus, anything, Ehlers-Danlos, you name it, if they have one good day, that doesn't mean that tomorrow is going to be a good day. It can be a bad day. And you just happen to catch them on that good day. And I use this example all the time, especially for invisible disabilities with, using the disabled parking in parking lots, and seeing them get out of the car, and they can get out of the car and they can walk into the store. You may think, well, why in the world is that person parking there? Why do they have that sticker? But you may not know that that might be the first time that that person left the house in 2 weeks. And today just happened to be a good day that they could get out and go to the grocery store for the first time. They actually got dressed and showered. They may have been in the bed the past 2 weeks. And I always just try to make sure that, people understand that you don't know what people go through behind closed doors. And that's a big passion of mine. And that's kind of where I've led to now, just speaking out with that and just sharing other people's stories. And I'm honored to be here that you're doing that for others as well.
Yeah, you definitely right. You said a lot there. Just there's a lot of stigmas and like you said, one of the main things is just I don't see the finished product.
That's
Like
right.
you said, you see the person stepping out the car, walking in the store, but the journey from the couch to the car is really what it probably took every amount of energy in their body
Absolutely.
to make it to the car. So people have to understand. A lot of time what you're seeing is a finished product. You need to understand the process in between, and a lot of time is what makes the difference. And
Right.
if you wanted to trade, a lot of time people would want to trade if they knew what happened in between there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
So no, so my next question I wanted to just ask was well, you kind of talked about your motivation a little bit. And I was going to ask about what motivated you to do that. But uh, another thing, I know what you're on your website, you have where you do speaking engagements, and so that kind of made me wonder: is there any particular moment you can think of since you started doing advocacy and speaking that you feel like, oh man, been waiting for this speaking opportunity moment, or any moment that really sticks out in your mind right now?
I think you stopped for a second. So can you repeat that past part, that last part? I think the computer just froze up. I just want to make
Oh,
sure you answer it properly.
yeah. I was just saying, is there any moment you can think of that sticks out in your mind as far as speaking engagements?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I I I will tell you. I love speaking to live audiences, and it's been a challenge, obviously, with COVID and the pandemic, and not being able to do that because you can get the reactions from people so much better in person. But when I have, before everything shut down, the opportunity to share my story, I love people's reactions when I show a video and I'll say, okay, here's a video and here are pictures of people, and pick out which one is disabled. And the thing that gets them is that every single person in that picture is disabled, but not everyone looks it. Isn't that interesting that people
Yeah.
have their ideas in their minds of how they view people? And that's part of my thing is I just want people to understand that, it's not a one size fits all. It's not what you think it is. And disabilities come in so many forms. And, and that's a part of understanding what it's like to be inclusive, when you want to have that inclusivity, especially when I speak to businesses. The big push right now, Tyrone, I'm sure is diversity and inclusion, but that must include the disability community. The disability community is the largest minority group in the world. So for businesses and organizations not to include that, they're completely missing the mark. You've got to be able to offer that. When you offer employment and when you offer your employees the opportunity to feel valued, you have to make sure that you include the disability community. So you kind of see this light bulb moment in people's eyes, like, oh yeah, that's so important. How do we do that? And so that's why I started offering these training classes recently, and just making sure that businesses understand that when you say that you're going to be accessible, it's very simple. You can be accessible. And just like you were saying before we began, you're able-minded, and it's about making sure that you feel valued and a part of that. And those businesses need to do that as well.
That's awesome, man. Just you, going back again, like we were just talking about visible and invisible
Yeah.
disabilities. And for those who know that I'm in a interabled relationship, and a lot of
Oh,
times me and my wife, they see us and they're like, oh, he's so lucky that he has you to take care of him with his disability. But they unless you know my wife personally, a lot of them didn't know that she had scoliosis. You know,
oh,
so
right,
she's disabled herself. If you don't know that, you just seen it, you wouldn't know that. But it's so we're
right.
both disabled individuals in a relationship, and
There you go.
but like you just said, we had people aren't aware, so we had to be sensitive on how we
Yeah,
talk to other individuals. And so I
absolutely.
think you're very right. And another thing, side note, I want to get my soapbox for 1 second. I know I'm interviewing you, but also I would love to see businesses and just the community in general. We have to start publicizing special needs and media more. And when I mean media, I mean and commercials on
Absolutely.
advertisements. Uh, I remember one time I went to Target and they had a poster board of a little boy in a wheelchair and they had some
Hmm.
clothes on. We need to see that because I shop at Target.
That's
I
right.
shop at Walmart, and we need to see those things. So, uh, so that's my 5 seconds of Chris, soapbox.
Well, just to piggyback on that, Tyrone, I really feel like it is changing. We have seen, especially over the past few months, with the documentary Crip Camp. I'm not sure if you
Yeah,
saw that on Netflix.
yeah,
Phenomenal.
I loved it. Yeah,
So good. And I'm so disappointed it did not get nominated or it didn't win the best Oscar for documentary. However, it did highlight so many things. Obviously, the ADA coming into effect, but it's starting to change the talk of, especially in Hollywood, so certain production companies like Paramount and NBC, they are committed to hiring disability actors and actresses for their roles. And, you know, I watched, what was it, Jenny and Georgia on Netflix as well. One of the actors just happened to be deaf. He was one of the fathers. And he didn't have to play that role. They didn't have to provide a deaf actor for that role because it wasn't called for, but it was just included as part of the narrative. And that's what we need to continue to talk about,
yeah,
that many homes have someone who is hearing impaired. Many homes have, you name it, all different types of disabilities. And you just have to start including that. And I really feel like that conversation is changing. And I am excited to see where it continues to go. And, I will tease a little bit something. I can't share too much, but I'm working on something here in Charlotte to help foster that gap for people with disabilities and employment. So I hope you'll have me back on this summer when we finally launch. I can't share too much, but
yeah.
I'm starting to work on something, and we're going to be launching in the next few months where we're hoping it's going to be a great thing for the disabled community.
Oh yeah, most of it. I would love to if you, just reach back out and
I will.
we bring you back to follow up and see the progress. That'd be awesome. Yeah,
Yes, I
that
would
would
love
be
it.
awesome. So let me see here. So I think we kind of touched a little bit about your website. I haven't.
Mhm.
I talked about you offer speaking engagement opportunities. But and was there anything else on your website that you would like to mention to the audience that you provide or they should know about?
Well, I kind of pivoted, like I mentioned, for more training classes and offerings for area businesses and anyone that wants to offer an inclusive environment, what that looks like for the disability community. I love to do that. And, it could be as simple as, how do we make sure that our employees feel valued, or how do we honor those that need certain accommodations? So I love to talk about that. But I also just like to share For those that are recently diagnosed in the rare disease community, kind of those steps in evolution of what it's like after you get that diagnosis. And, it's a grieving process because you have to grieve your old life that you knew before, because it's not going to be the same one that you're looking at. But once you go through that and embrace the positiveness that can come from being alive and not feeling so sick all the time, it's a joy, and it's a good experience. And so I have that as well. So I would love for people to check me out and see if there's anything that I can offer to them. I do Zoom and webinars, obviously, because this seems to be the new way of life. And happy to do that online for
Yeah.
people as well.
Yeah. Okay. It's the new virtual world. I tell you.
Yes.
Um, so my next question I was going to ask about. Could you tell me about maybe one of the toughest times you had, or biggest obstacles you may have encountered, with just kind of establishing yourself and branding yourself as a advocate? Just trying to get everything together. Your site and your brand, your logo, and everything like that. It's a process
Sure.
for people that don't know.
It has been a process, I will tell you, because where I am now is not where I started. And I don't think I will be next year, probably where I am now, because it's constantly changing. I originally started with, it was called Addison's disease with God's grace. And I was just mainly wanting to talk about Addison's disease, but I quickly learned that I had so much more to share.
Yeah.
I, especially with the autoimmune world and with the rare disease world, and just now with the disability community, I wanted to make sure that I opened it up. So just didn't want it to limit myself to only Addison's disease. So that was my first website and my first social media. And then a couple of years ago, I changed it to AnessaPowell.com, which is now Anessa Powell Speaker on Facebook, and just Anessa Powell on Instagram. And that's where I decided to share all forms of what it was, highlighting invisible illnesses, chronic illnesses, autoimmune diseases, rare diseases, and the disability community in all forms. And so it's been a great ride. I've kind of just, when you're doing this alone, sometimes, especially when you're kind of an advocate on your own, it is a long process, because it's a matter of networking and meeting people. So I started this back in 2014, and here I am in 2021, and I still feel like I have so much to learn from others. And I'm trying to soak it up. And obviously with everything that's been happening over the past couple of years, it slowed things down, because we're not able to meet in person and to have those meetings and networking in person. So that was kind of threw a wrench into things, because goodness, at the beginning of 2020, I had quite a full calendar of speaking engagements, and all of those were canceled. And so, I've had to change, but it's been a great thing in a sense, because now I can look back on and say, if that had not have happened, I'm not sure I would be starting this new endeavor. And I'm really excited about what the future holds with that. And so stay tuned.
Yeah. It definitely, like I said, the whole pandemic and just the turn of events have definitely caused us to be innovative in how we do things. And
Yes.
that's one good thing about being a entrepreneur, or a forward thinker. You just you get you get lemons, you make lemonade. So
Right.
um,
Exactly. I love it.
okay, so I'm going to kind of wrap up our interview. So two more questions. My next one is for everyone that will tune in to this interview with us. Uh, you want to kind of tell them where they can connect with you if they're interested in speaking engagement, or maybe getting advice from you.
Absolutely. People can find me on my website, which is AnessaPowell.com. And that's AnessaPowell.com. And then Instagram under the same name, Facebook, Anessa Powell Speaker. So any of those three locations, people can find me. And just like you did, you sent me a message through my website, and I'll get back to you and would love to chat and help in any way I can, or at least point you in the right direction of hopefully someone who is understanding of how to answer your question. I'll see what
Yeah,
I can do. Truly.
yeah, definitely. To the list, she is quick. I mean, I think it might have been within the day she contacted me, but I love that it don't. I love that it don't. I was able to start get in contact and set up something really quick. So I love
Yeah.
whenever the contacts get back quick like that. Um, okay, so the my last question, I put what is your I wanted to know what is your proudest moment as an educator, but I think I want to ask just what is your proudest moment now as basically I want to say entrepreneur because you have so many things going on. I think the term entrepreneur would be better to use.
That's a good question. It's I think my proudest moment is the fact that I'm here. And if that I know that sounds silly,
Yeah.
but it's been a long road, and I've worked really hard to network and to research and to learn. I don't have a science background. I don't have a pharmaceutical background. I don't have a science mind whatsoever, but I think I can speak somewhat intelligently about my disease and share with others about what that means. And I've come a long way, because when I was diagnosed and they said, okay, you have Addison's disease, I was like, what the heck are you talking about? I've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
And I have adrenal glands. What are those? I didn't even know we had such things in our bodies. So that part of it, I'm really glad about. And meeting so many wonderful people such as yourself in this world. It is such a great community. The rare disease world is really special. And especially with rare diseases, because there's so many diseases that do not have treatments. And mine just happens to be one of the fortunate ones that does have a drug treatment plan for it, but there are countless others that do not. And so when you meet families and when you meet caregivers and when you meet patients themselves and they realize that they have a hard road some days, and having that community around them, I'm so fortunate to have met so many people and to be a part of it, because it truly is special. So I'm really happy where we are right now. I really have, especially now that we're starting to get out of it, we're starting to get back into some sort of normalcy, and I'm excited for the future.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Awesome. Um, well, I want to say again, I know I probably said 1,000 times, but thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to our viewers. You guys please definitely support Miss Powell and her advocacy. Uh, as you finish listening to this, remember to like, subscribe, follow us on our social media platforms, and we will see you guys again. Thank you so much, Miss Powell.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.